you want to be liked, or do you want to be remembered? Because history has no space for men who were simply agreeable. The nice guy is everyone's friend, and no one's priority. He's the man who says yes when he should say no, who avoids conflict hoping for peace, who smiles when he's being disrespected, and calls it virtue. But here's the brutal truth. Being nice is not a legacy. It's a mask for fear. Modern society trains men to believe that being nice is the high road. That kindness guarantees loyalty. That goodness leads to recognition. But look closely, the workplace, the dating world, politics, even friendship, and you'll find the opposite. The nice guy isn't chosen, he's used. Why? Because when a man always tries to please, people stop taking him seriously. He becomes predictable, disposable. He's the guy who never says the hard truth, never draws the line, never claims what's his. And in a world run by dominance and perception, that's the fastest path to invisibility. You think you're being noble, but what they see is weakness. The illusion is powerful. It feels good to be liked, to be safe, to avoid confrontation. But deep inside, you know the cost. You feel it when you're overlooked, when others rise above you, not because they're better, but because they dared to act, because they understood the first law of power. If you want to be heard, you have to be willing to be feared. Nice guys don't lead, they follow. Nice guys don't own, they rent. Nice guys don't dominate, they serve. And one day the nice guy wakes up. He's older, tired, full of regret. The doors he held open were never held for him. The loyalty he gave was never returned. And the world that he thought would reward his decency barely remembers his name. Legacy is not built on comfort. It's built on conflict, conquest, and command. So the question is not, how can I be more liked? The question is, what am I willing to sacrifice to be remembered? Respect isn't something you earn by being agreeable. It's something you extract, through force, through presence, through refusal. The tragedy of the nice guy is that he begs for respect in silence. He does favors. He avoids conflict. He tries to be the reliable one, the safe one, the good guy. And in return, he gets overlooked, forgotten, used. Why? Because in power dynamics and at work, in love, in life, respect is a currency. And like any currency, it only flows to those who demand it. Have you ever seen a lion ask for territory? No. He marks it, he defends it, and if challenged, he destroys. That's the primal rule humans still follow, even in suits and ties. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you say nothing when you're disrespected, you're teaching them it's acceptable. If you always agree, you're telling them your opinion doesn't matter. If you avoid confrontation, you're showing them you can be stepped on without consequences. And once that image sets in, it's almost impossible to erase. Look around. The men who are respected in any environment aren't the ones who try to please. They're the ones who set boundaries and enforce them, who say no with calm authority, who walk away from disrespect without flinching. Fear creates space. Boundaries create worth. But nice guys? They mistake being liked for being safe. They don't realize that without respect, being liked is a slow death. Death of ambition, of identity, of purpose. Do you know what makes a man valuable? It's not how helpful he is. It's how indispensable he becomes. And indispensability comes from courage, not courtesy. From impact, not intention. A man who imposes respect changes the room just by entering. He doesn't need to raise his voice. He doesn't need to beg. His presence says, I don't need your approval, but you'll notice when I'm gone. Until a man understands this, he will never lead. He will never be feared, and he will never be free. So ask yourself, are you liked because you're valuable or because you're easy to ignore? The nice guy never notices the cost until it's too late. He thinks he's keeping the peace. He thinks he's being mature. He thinks that swallowing his pride is the noble thing to do. But what he's really doing is trading his power for approval. And the price? It's not just respect. It's his ambition, his masculinity, his soul. Submission, disguised as kindness, becomes a habit. You defer, you hesitate, you downplay your worth. At first, it looks like humility, but over time, it becomes self-erasure. The man who never asserts himself becomes invisible. He avoids conflict so often that he forgets how to fight. He avoids confrontation so consistently that he forgets how to speak up. He avoids tension so completely that he forgets how to lead. This is how empires of mediocrity are built, on the backs of men who say yes when they should say, "Get out of my way." You think you're avoiding drama. What you're really doing is avoiding dominion. Here's the paradox. The more you give without demand, the more they take without limit. The more you compromise, the less you're valued. The more you submit, the less they see you as a man. And the more they see you as a tool. And a tool is used, not respected. This is why nice guys finish last. Not because the world is unfair, but because they make themselves harmless. And no one follows a harmless man. There's a reason Machiavelli wrote for princes, not peasants. Because the man who rules understands. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the result of conquest. You don't get peace by yielding. You get peace by winning. And sometimes you win by being willing to burn the bridge, not beg to cross it. Submission in the modern world looks polite, but beneath it, resentment, frustration, bitterness. Because every time you kneel, a part of you dies. And when that death is complete, you're no longer a man. You're a memory of who you could have been. The only thing more dangerous than a ruthless enemy is a nice guy who's been used for too long. Because when he finally wakes up, he's full of rage, regret, and nothing to lose. Don't let that be your story. There's a silent power most men never master. Calm defiance. Not aggression, not noise, but a quiet, surgical assertiveness that cuts deeper than anger ever could. You don't need to scream to dominate. You don't need to fight to control. You need presence and the willingness to say no without apology. This is virtue, not in the moral sense, but in the Machiavellian sense. The capacity to act with courage, discipline, and tactical sharpness in a hostile world. While the nice guy waits for permission, the assertive man claims position. He doesn't explain. He doesn't ask. He makes his boundaries known, then defends them with ruthless calm. You see this in politics. The most feared leaders aren't the loudest. They're the ones who smile with steel in their spine. They make you guess their next move. They make silence feel like pressure. Because power isn't just about words. It's about what you can withhold. In the corporate world, it's the executive who speaks last and listens first. Not because he's shy, but because every word is calculated. He's not reacting, he's observing. And when he speaks, the room shifts. Assertiveness is the art of creating tension without losing control. You're not there to please, you're there to position. You're not emotional, you're intentional. It's the man who walks out of a bad deal without flinching. The man who looks you in the eye and says, "That won't work for me." The man who understands, if you're always available, you're never valuable. Nice guys think saying yes makes them safe. Strategic men know that saying no makes them powerful. And it's not about being rude, it's about being clear, unshakable, unapologetic. Because the man who never asserts himself disappears. The man who stands firm, even alone, becomes magnetic. So here's your challenge. Start removing the word sorry from your vocabulary. Stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned that right. And start treating your time, your attention, your presence like a limited resource, because it is. The world doesn't give you value, you declare it. And those who don't respect it, cut them off. Cold, clean, without noise, like a blade in the dark. Every room you walk into is a battlefield, whether you see it or not. There's a war being fought, not with fists, not with guns, but with posture, eye contact, silence, and tone. It's the war for status, and most nice guys lose it without ever knowing it existed. Status is not given, it's sensed, claimed, defended. It's the unspoken hierarchy in every interaction, in meetings, in relationships, in social circles. And it's brutal. You don't get ranked based on your intentions. You get ranked based on your impact. Nice guys enter a room hoping to be liked. Strategic men enter a room knowing they need to be felt. Here's what most fail to realize. People assess you in seconds. Before you speak, you're already judged. Your body language, your energy, your willingness to hold space, it all sends a message. I lead, or I follow. This is why so many polite, good-hearted men are passed over for promotions, ignored in conversations, or abandoned in relationships. Not because they're bad, but because they signal low value. And in the animal kingdom, weakness is prey. That hasn't changed. Think of a wolf pack. There's no debate over who leads. There's posture, there's presence, there's a silent understanding. I go first, you follow. Humans aren't wolves, but the instincts are the same. In every room, the man who asserts status first sets the tone. He doesn't dominate with volume. He dominates with certainty. Certainty is rare. Certainty is attractive. Certainty is power. Nice guys hesitate. They downplay their opinions. They use soft language. If you don't mind, I was just thinking maybe, sorry, but, and they wonder why no one listens. Power responds to clarity, not to comfort. If you want to rise in this silent war, you must learn to play it. Here's how. Speak slowly. Own the air between words. Sit still. Movement reveals nerves. Look directly. Most people break eye contact. That's where you win. Cut the fluff. Say what you mean. Leave it there. Because when you speak like a man who's used to being heard, you will be. And the man who waits for validation, he becomes background noise, polite, pleasing, invisible. Don't play to fit in, play to rise. Because whether you want to admit it or not, every room is keeping score. What if everything you were taught about being good was designed to keep you powerless? We're told from a young age, be kind, be fair, do the right thing. And if you follow the rules, you'll be rewarded. But look around. Is that how the real world works? Does the most moral man win the deal? Does the nicest guy get the girl? Does the most ethical player rise to power? Or do we see something else entirely? The world doesn't reward goodness, it rewards effectiveness. That's the trap. The system is built to keep average men tame by feeding them moral illusions. Follow the rules, stay in line, don't rock the boat. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, the strategic wolves are feasting. They don't ask, is this fair? They ask, does this work? They don't wonder, am I being a good person? They ask, am I getting results? This doesn't mean being evil. It means being dangerous with discipline. Morality, when weaponized against yourself, becomes submission in disguise. Machiavelli said it best. A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything is bound to come to ruin among so many who are not good. Let that sink in. You're trying to win a war using rules your enemies don't follow. You're bringing honor to a knife fight and wondering why you bleed. This is the modern man's dilemma. He's been trained to fear his own edge, to see assertiveness as toxic, to see ambition as selfish, to see ruthlessness as immoral. And yet, all the men he admires in history, in business, in power, they played the game without those chains. The man who wins isn't the man who's liked, it's the man who's feared and respected. The one who bends perception, calculates risk, and strikes when others hesitate. Here's the hard truth. There are moments when doing the right thing is the wrong strategy, when silence is smarter than honesty, when manipulation is more effective than transparency, when power demands actions that morality would forbid. And in those moments, nice guys fail, strategic men rise. Stop worshiping virtue that keeps you poor, weak, and ignored. Start practicing tactical morality, the kind that builds leverage, not guilt. Because in a world that doesn't play fair, your conscience isn't your shield. It's your cage, love and business, two arenas that seem different. But both are ruled by the same brutal law. Power is everything. Nice guys think relationships are about giving. That love is earned through loyalty, patience, emotional support. They think women choose the most caring man, that bosses promote the most consistent worker. They're wrong. In both love and business, the one with less power is the one who needs more. And in any negotiation, the one who needs more loses. Let's start with relationships. Nice guys make themselves available. They shower affection. They validate constantly. They never challenge. They believe that by being the most giving, they'll be the most valued. But attraction doesn't work that way. What's attractive is value. What's magnetic is mystery. What's respected is selectivity. The man who never says no is boring. The man who always agrees is predictable. The man who places her above his mission is replaceable. Women don't admire sacrifice. They admire strength. They're drawn to the man who has options and chooses her, not the one who needs her. Now switch to business. Nice guys do what they're told. They don't negotiate salaries. They don't challenge bad decisions. They don't speak up. They think being a team player will protect them. But here's how the real game works. You're not rewarded for your effort. You're rewarded for your leverage. If your absence doesn't hurt the company, your presence doesn't matter. If your boss knows you'll never walk away, you'll never rise. The men who advance are the ones who take risk, who draw lines, who build leverage and use it ruthlessly. Whether in love or business, power is perception, and perception is built through scarcity, decisiveness, and boundaries. So stop thinking you'll win by being the most loyal. Start thinking in terms of influence. Ask yourself, does this person need me or just enjoy me? If I walk away, do they lose something? Am I negotiating from strength or from fear? Because here's the truth. If you're always available, you're never respected. If you're always accommodating, you're never prioritized. And if you're always nice, you're always forgettable. It's not enough to be good. You have to be powerful. Here's a cruel truth. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters what you look like you are. In the game of power, perception beats reality. Every single time. Nice guys cling to their inner worth. They think, if I'm good, people will see it. If I work hard, they'll recognize me. If I'm sincere, they'll respect me. But the world doesn't run on truth. It runs on image, illusion, impact. You can be loyal, skilled, even brilliant, and still be ignored. Because perception is the currency that moves people. And if you don't control how you're seen, someone else will define you. This is why men who look confident are trusted before men who are qualified. Why men who speak with authority are obeyed before men who think clearly. Why men who dress for power are respected before men who deserve it. You're not just competing on talent. You're competing on presentation. The effective man understands this. He doesn't just build substance. He crafts his image. He curates his words, his presence, his digital footprint, his posture, his reputation. Because in the world of influence, appearance isn't vanity. It's strategy. Nice guys fear this truth. They think playing the game of image is fake, dishonest, manipulative. But that's exactly why they lose. You don't rise by being real. You rise by being perceived as rare, respected, and dangerous. Machiavelli was clear. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. So ask yourself, what do people see when you walk into the room? Do they see certainty or hesitation? Do they feel presence or passivity? Do they sense influence or irrelevance? Because they will treat you based on the version of you they construct in their mind. And unless you shape that version intentionally, you're leaving your fate to chance. You don't need to lie, but you do need to signal. Signal strength, signal boundaries, signal success, even before it's complete. Because no one will believe in your power until you make them see it. Legacy is not built in safety, it's built in blood, betrayal, risk, and ruthless clarity. Nice guys avoid danger. They play not to lose. They live small lives, comfortable, consistent, invisible. But history doesn't remember the careful. It remembers the courageous, and often the feared. Because legacy is the echo of decisions that changed the terrain, and no terrain is ever changed by someone too afraid to disrupt it. You don't build a name by fitting in. You build it by fighting for something that costs you comfort, by stepping into rooms you're not invited to, by making moves others wouldn't dare to try. And yes, it's dangerous. Real leadership demands enemies. Real progress demands confrontation. Real power demands loss. You may lose fake friends. You may lose opportunities that were never meant to empower you. You may even lose sleep, peace, certainty. But what you gain is immortality. Because when a man stops asking what's safe and starts asking what's worth it, he crosses a threshold from survivor to conqueror, from invisible to inevitable. Every man you admire, every emperor, every mogul, every disruptor, they made a decision at some point that being liked was not enough, that peace was not the goal, that comfort was not the prize. They embraced tension, they faced hatred, they risked being misunderstood so they could never be forgotten. That's the cost of legacy. It's paid in conflict and repaid in immortality. Because when your name carries weight long after you're gone, that's when you know you made the right enemies. So ask yourself, are you living to be safe or to be significant? Because you won't be remembered for what you tolerated. You'll be remembered for what you dared. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must choose to keep playing the nice guy and fade quietly into irrelevance, or to embrace his edge and take back control. This is the Machiavellian turn. It's the point where you stop apologizing for your ambition. You stop flinching when you're underestimated. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You realize that in a world ruled by perception, emotion, and power, strategy is your salvation. You stop chasing approval and start building leverage. You stop seeking peace and start mastering tension. You stop trying to be loved by everyone and start being respected by the right ones. Because at some point you understand, nice doesn't move nations, nice doesn't win wars, nice doesn't make history, effective does. The Machiavellian man knows this. He isn't cruel, he's calculated. He isn't reckless, he's ruthless when required. He isn't fake, he's selectively honest. He leads by example. He commands with presence. He understands that virtue without strength is a performance, not a strategy. And above all, he understands the final truth. The ends justify the means, if you want to keep playing. So here's your decision. You can keep being the man who says yes to everyone and dies with regrets. Or you can become the man who says no with authority and leaves a legacy of dominance. The game is happening whether you like it or not. The question is, are you a player or a pawn? Let's be brutally honest. If you die tomorrow, who remembers your name? Who carries your influence? Who still feels your presence in the room? If the answer is no one, then everything you thought was good, your niceness, your patience, your loyalty, wasn't enough. Because the world doesn't remember nice guys. It remembers the ones who left a mark. So ask yourself, are you tired of being overlooked while others win? Are you done being used, ignored, passed up? Are you ready to stop surviving and start commanding? Then the answer isn't more kindness, it's more clarity, more coldness, more virtue. Start saying no more often. Start holding the line when people push. Start living like your name is a weapon, not a whisper. Because one day, you'll look back and realize the moments you feared the most were the ones that would have made you unforgettable. Nice guys die quietly. Strategic men don't die. They ascend. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Niccolo Machiavelli. So now it's your move. Leave a comment. What's one decision you regret not taking because you were too nice? Subscribe if you're done with playing small and ready to play the real game. Next video, we go deeper into the laws of dominance and how to build silent power in every room you enter.